Welcome to Trumpodden International, Mr. Terry Baker.
Glad to be here.
So we're going to start with 10 quick nerdies. Ride or hi-hat?
Hi-hat.
Hi-hat. Big and wet or small and dry?
Probably big and wet.
Yeah. Coated or clear?
Clear.
Clear. Heel up or heel down?
Heel up.
22 or 20-inch kick?
20.
Groove or fills?
Groove, definitely.
Band or freelance?
Band.
Band. Nylon or wood tip?
Wood tip.
Wood tip. Hard case or soft case?
Soft case.
Soft case. And in-ear or wedge?
Wedge, definitely.
So tell me about your childhood.
Well, I grew up in a musical family. My mother was one of 7, and everybody was musical. All my uncles played. It was one on every instrument. My grandfather was the first drummer at my church. A lot of church for me at that time. So I was always around my grandfather, and I had a lot of cousins and that played. Just a big musical family. So it kind of helped mold me into what I am today, because I always had, music in my ears, if you will. My mom used to say I came out with drumsticks, but literally, I can remember playing as early as probably like 6 or 7. And that was really all that was on my mind.
So did you have like a drum role model back then?
Well, back then, there was in our household, we only listened to a lot of gospel. So I heard of different players, but the ones that really stand out to me growing up, if I had to name some that a lot of players would know, would be Chester Thompson, Phil Collins, Vinny Calahuda, Dave Werkel, and Billy Cobham.
Oh, yeah.
Was really big. Dennis Chambers. And then in the gospel realm, I listened to a lot of Joe Smith and Michael Williams. Those were really, the only 2. And besides actually Kevin Bronson, that, were a lot of the drummers that I listened to that was really playing records at that time. There was some that started later, like the Dana Davis, but it wasn't a lot of guys playing in gospel that we knew of. So those are really a lot of the ones that I grew up listening to.
And did you like study music, or did you play like in church and stuff?
Played all the time in church. I was like our first, we had a service called the Junior Church, which it was like children and youth church. So that was my first paid experience in the church. So they paid me $3.
Yeah. It's like your first job.
Yeah, $3 for that hour at that time, man. It was big back then. I think I was like 7 or 8, but that was a real great experience for me. So, it was really all the time church. We went to church on Friday and Saturdays. So between the weekend playing at church and then, maybe rehearsal on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's when I got to sit down as a kid and really, sharpen my chops.
Cool. Can you remember like when you got your own first drum kit?
Yeah, man. Actually, for me, I remember I was in our newspaper at a young age, and there was a lady that saw my article, and she wanted to buy me a drum set. And at that time, like I said, we were Sabbath keepers, and we really didn't do anything on Saturday, and that was the only day she could do it. And I was a little heartbroken at that time that I couldn't go and pick out a drum set. But I kind of later got over that. But my first drum set was I used to rent a drum set at it was called a doo-wop shop. So that was the first drum set that I had, and that was the first drum set that I played on a major recording, and that was like a Ludwig. It was a mash kit, man. But the one thing about me growing up is because I was in love with drums, even at the church, I would take our drums apart. So I knew every crack and cranny about drum sets. Like the first drum set I remember was a Rogers. We had an old Rogers.
Yeah.
We had Sonar. We had a Fibes kit. And then later on, one of my cousins, he bought a Pearl kit. And that's when I got introduced to a lot of Pearl drums. But, that was like a big thing for me. So I pretty much like to take drums and just really figure out the best way to make those drums sound good. So that made me experiment with drum heads and all of that. So I took that mesh kit, man, I put some fiber skins on the bottom, Remo, and a pinstripe on the top. And that was an amazing kit to me. But that was my first one. So after I did that, I was able, by that time I was living in Nashville, I was able to purchase my first drum kit, which was a Pearl. I was in love with Pearl. So nice. I bought a Master Custom. And man, you couldn't tell me nothing then. So I kept that and did a lot of, records on that. But that Ludwig and that Pearl kit was really two of my favorite kits. And the Pearl kit, actually, I still have till today. I'll say it's in my family. I actually gave it to a cousin of mine that began to play. So I let him have it and let him enjoy it, while he was coming up. And he still has it. So it's still in the family.
Nice. That's great. So you've been playing with Kirk Franklin for quite a while now. And I was wondering, can you tell me about like a typical recording day with Kirk Franklin, how it looked like?
A typical recording day when I first got there was we would go into the studio, the whole band. It would just be us and Kurt. He'll sit down at the piano, give us the idea. We'll play it a couple of times, and then we track it. That was when I first started working with him in 2000.
Yeah.
And my first record was the Rebirth record. So that was more of an live experience. But now it's totally different. So most of the time the track is done and I go in maybe most of the time last, and then I track on top of everybody else. So it's a different system now, but recordings when I first started playing and what they are now is two totally different things. I mean, we would go into a city and set up and do live records and set up for a whole 7 days and learn the music and then record on the last day, with a lot of gospel records. Now, a lot of stuff is, send it to me at the house and I'll just track at the house.
So you have like a studio?
Yeah, I miss those days, actually. And being in the studio with a bunch of players and we just kind of vibe and get to, enjoy music and have that conversation together. I miss that.
Yeah. So back then you kind of did the arrangement together? Yes.
Yeah. A lot of times we would, like I said, we would go in, the producer would fly everybody in and we'll just sit down and just start creating, having fun.
Yeah.
So now, it's still a little bit of that, but I think what makes it a little bit different with players now, and Kurt is a creature of habit, and knowing the players that he calls on, he knows what they're going to do. So it's kind of like, you sit down and you try to figure out, well, what are you hearing? And because now it's really merging the program drums with the live elements. So it's just kind of bridging the gap between the two. So tracking with him is a lot more of that, but still with a lot of other players, they like, to have the live experience.
So I read that you've been working with Aretha Franklin.
Yeah, I've done, when I lived in Nashville, that's when I did a lot of session work with a producer named Sanchez Harley, and he afforded me time to do a lot of those records because he was working with them. So her last gospel record, he produced like 3 or 4 songs on it, and I was able to work on that record with him, which was an honor to me.
Cool. So you got to meet her and play with her?
Yeah. I had met her early on in my career because she had Bobby Jones come and do one of her events. So I got to meet her early in my 20s. So it was an honor meeting her then as well.
What's your relationship to social media?
Well, right now I have my daughter doing a lot of that for me. What I've been doing is I'm working on my record right now, and I'm doing better at, putting a lot of things together and really documenting a lot of the things I do. I've never been one of those guys that just post. But I've been trying to get her to where I hired her. I hired her to video everything that I'm doing. So actually the last piece that I just did like 2 days ago, I just did this record for Joe, the R&B singer, the one that's singing on Power.
Yeah.
This is a big red town. So we've been working on his whole record all last year, man. So he just did a new song that he's putting out for the times that we're living in. So that's kind of been really cool because he's specifically, after I did one song, he's like, get rid of everybody else and I want that dude on everything. So I wound up redoing a whole lot of the other records for this particular for that particular record. So it's been kind of cool.
So I have some questions from my listeners to you. Here's the first one. What is one thing that impressed you when working with Aretha Franklin?
The one thing that impressed me was her consistency in her instrument, as far as her voice, the control, and just her presence. It's just like the whole aura behind her. When she stood and she took the mic, it was like that thing that she had, that confidence that was always there. Man, that, to me, I think every singer, every musician should have that. It's not a cockiness. It's a place of, I know that this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and I stand here with the confidence to do what I'm here to do. Yeah, that's what I like.
Yeah, cool. What would you say are some of the main differences in the way to play drums in gospel music if comparing now to 20 years ago?
For me, nothing. Because my foundation in playing was always, and recording was always, with the producers, is kind of playing the music. So even from Kirk, from Aretha, pretty much everybody, my roots are play the song, play the music, set up the next section, like make it feel good. Like you are there to keep time and to set a groove that everybody feels. So that's always been in me. And I think that's what has given me the longevity, because the one thing about it and I'm not taking nothing from anybody else, I've never been a chopper or anything like that. I think I've always been the guy just to make it feel good. And when you make artists comfortable, those are the artists that want to pay you. Those are artists that want to take care of you. Those are the artists that want to give you security, because they know every time you get behind that instrument, you're going to be solid and you're going to give them what they need, and not always what you want to play, you know? So it's been that consistency for me, groove wise, that has afforded me, you know, all the opportunities, and it's still doing it even today.
Yeah.
Because Joe, I never would say that I would be doing R&B or even deciding to do any of that stuff. There's artists that I've said I always wanted to play with, like a Phil Collins or a Prince or Michael Jackson. But, you know, at this point, you know, it's kind of cool to know that, you know, you can step into other lanes, do that, and it's still the same kick pattern over here as it is over here with gospel with Kirk Franklin. So, I mean, nothing is changing for me on that end. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. Has YouTube, Instagram, and social media in any way impacted or changed your profession as a drummer?
I don't think so. And that's another interesting thought, because I haven't done a lot of it, and because I wasn't the guy that was posting everything that I did or in there trying to let people see a lot of the stuff that I did. Then for me, it's still, even when this is a social media driven country, I'm still relevant now by even the little posts that I do or the stuff that I do. I don't think that's driven me, because, you know, my name and my reputation has went before me. So I kind of feel great about that people can talk about me. And when you talk about social media and all of those things, I don't feel like it's a big presence of me out there, but to know that people still know me and I'm still relevant, you know, throughout social media, where somebody else wants to post me or do whatever, that makes me feel good, especially, you know, being on here with you, man. I really appreciate that, because that's an honor to me and I don't take it lightly. But I do feel like that those are the things that keep us relevant more than anything, is your reputation and what you do behind the instrument, and even what you do off the instrument. So, yeah.
Nice. How are Kirk Franklin, James Fortune, and Kurt Carr as music directors?
They're all three different people. Kurt is really, both of the Kurt and Kirk Franklin, they're both hands-on musicians. They know what they want. James, working with one of the producers that he has, Aaron Lewis, he knows what he wants, but he does a lot of co-producing with Aaron Lewis musically. So that's a little bit different. And actually, I got to work with James not because of Aaron. It was through another producer named Terrence Vaughn that the single that he did was that Live Through It. And I got to play on that. And I was doing a lot of stuff with Terrence Vaughn. So that's kind of cool, because he's really more of a R&B producer and that sort of thing. And that's, you know, that was really cool. So three different creatures, three different creatures, but everybody still knows what they want. And I appreciate that. Kurt Carr is definitely hands on. Kirk Franklin is a little more laid back, but he's still hands on. He's the guy that will walk in the studio and say, "This is my vision." Cool. So once I start tracking, he'll walk out the room and let me finish and come back and say, "All right, so let me hear it." "Oh, cool. Sounds great, man. All right, you good." Kurt Carr is going to sit there from the time we set up to the time I break down and walk through every piece. He still trusts me, but he's more of, he knows what he wants. Okay, take the kick out right here. Do this right here. Like, he's that guy. And sometimes you have to stay in front of it, because he's the kind of guy that might do that in post, and sometimes it's not natural when you hear it back. So you want to say, hey man, just tell me your thoughts so I can play it so it feels natural instead of you trying to chop it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Cool.
3 different people.
Yeah. How do you stay relevant as a drummer, or even do you think you need to stay relevant as a drummer?
I think every musician needs to stay relevant, and the one way that you do that is by always listening. I think when you stop listening to everything around you and music, and stop having a conversation when you play and inspiring the next instrument to be great, then you stop being relevant. So being relevant to me is really listening. Like I listen to the Mike Mitchells and my daughter and the Calvins and all of these people that are maybe younger than me, but still I think every musician can always grow by listening. And if you stop listening and just think that you know it all, then you're going to stunt your growth.
Cool. So the last question, what do you think about the young Instagram gospel drummers?
I love them, man. I was on a couple of my friends, Josiah Maddox and his brother, and another guy was on the other day. And all of those guys, when we're out on tour, they come and they sit and, I pour into them. Even to Calvin when he was a young upcoming drummer. Like I embrace that. I feel like, those guys, I think, the things that I've done, I think I can give back that to those guys so that they can move on and be even greater. The Bible, and I'm a church kid, so
yeah.
I always talk about what the word says, and it says, "Greater shall they do," and I'm for that generation doing greater. It still doesn't change my position because of what God has given me. But I feel like whatever I can give to them, if it's hooking them up with my endorsement company, if it's sitting down and just pouring knowledge into them, if it's giving them some gear, whatever it is, I think that's what we should do. And I love it. I love going to hear all of them play. I listen to them at different times, and I think they're great. I think they're pushing the envelope, and I love that because that pushes me to play something else, to hear it a different way. So I applaud it, man. I don't run from that, or am I intimidated by that at all?
Can you describe how does an ordinary day look like for you? If you don't see right now in the COVID time.
Ordinary day for me is really I'm up. My alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m. and I'm up praying and just grateful for another day. Normally, during that day, I'm going to the studio and tracking or working on some new stuff for my record company or other people, or working at my backline company. So it's pretty much music. I have really a full day, between my company of backline, my company of record company, and just recording music for different artists. So I'm pretty, just depending on what day it is, it's pretty full. The one thing that I try to do is always keep an open space for my family. I'm big on family, and the one thing I enjoy is my daughter, she plays, and my daughter plays ball. So normally I'm doing music or production or something up until maybe probably about 5 or 6. And then after that, I'm somewhere at my daughter's game or doing something with my son or in the studio with my daughter. So it's always something with the family and the missus, or just rolling around with the missus.
Yeah, Cool.
Typically, at night, unless I have to do something at night. So what's funny is like just now today. So what I'm doing is I'm doing this today. I've been here since 9:00.
Yeah.
We came in at 9:00 and started recording. We're on our second service. I also, tomorrow, I'll be in the studio with my daughter. Saturday, I'll be doing music for the Essence Festival with Tamala Man. Saturday evening, I'll be delivering drums to Kirk studio for Sunday Best. And then Sunday, I'll be tracking with Tamala Man again. So, man, it never really stops. It's always something going on.
Yeah, you're busy. Do you have like a plan B in life? Do you know what you have done if you wouldn't have become a drummer?
Man,
or was it like always drums?
It was always this. I tore my Achilles at one point and I couldn't play. I worked at an insurance company, and for a minute I did a job at Amazon. And I remember sitting there, and a lot of my friends that I was sitting there talking to, and I was talking about stuff that I was doing. And this was in the middle of my career when I tore my Achilles. And I just remember talking all of this stuff and telling them what I was doing. And they was like, man, what are you doing here? And I said, you know what? You're right. And I got up and I never looked back. I've always done music, and it's never been a point to where I even thought about doing anything else, because God has allowed me to be doing this full time for almost 30 years now. And there was really no plan B in my head. It was only my relationship with God and what I knew, what he called me to do. Sometimes it takes a minute for you to realize your worth and what you're called to do. But I think once you do that and you get in your lane, then everything falls into place. And that's one thing about it. I mean, for all of these years, it's still a relevant place for me, and it's still a fresh place for me. One, because I never tried to jump into anybody else's lane and try to do something somebody else was doing. I tried to do what I knew I was called to do, and do the music that made me happy, and really just kind of, stay in my lane, if you will. I've been very fortunate. I mean, this is all I've done for 30 years, man. And I've done well for myself and my family. And I'm grateful to God, for a lot of that touring and all the records that I've played on. I mean, man, I've been in a lot of rooms with a lot of people and a lot of musicians and a lot of artists. And it's been a great ride, and it still is, man, because it's still ever evolving. Like I said, I'm working with Joe now, and just to be kind of doing some other things, it's just interesting to see what door is open for me next.
Yeah.
Besides even being the minister of of 2 churches, directing choirs, and all of that. So it's kind of like music is, like I said, music has always been there. It's always been in my life.
Yeah, that's great. Now I'm gonna play a game called Feel Raffle. You're gonna hear some drum fills and gonna guess what song it is.
You're about to get me.
First fill.
Oh man, you might get me because I don't listen to all music. Because you got me on that one.
Yeah, you recognize it at all? No. No, it's Steve Gadd who's playing, and it's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, Paul Simon.
Wow.
Okay, next fill.
Do that again?
Yeah.
Man, you about to, this might be the worst game I've ever played.
It's hard. It's hard.
Oh man, you got me on that one. That's
Oh,
a 70s or 80s song though.
yeah.
For sure.
It's the band Toto, and it's Africa with Jeff Porcaro on the drums.
Okay, so hold on. We're gonna change. We're gonna improvise that. I can probably tell you the year.
Yeah, that's nice.
By the drum sound. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, next one.
I think that's Celebrate.
Yeah, Cool in the Gang.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Good. Okay, next one.
Got me on that one.
Dancing on the Ceiling, Lionel Richie.
Wow.
Next one.
I'll play it one more time. It sounds like a Prince song.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Oh, that's oh man, I know the song. That's what's his name? But that's Prince.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
It's Diamonds and Pearls.
Diamonds and Pearls. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. Okay, next one.
Come on, that's easy. That's Phil. That's Chester, man. Come on,
Yeah,
man. That's Phil.
I thought you would know it.
Yeah.
Okay, next one.
Wow, that sounds like a Stevie feel.
Yeah, it could
but
be.
I don't know.
No, it's Pocket Full of Soul, Tower Power with Mr. David Garibaldi on the drums. Okay, so last one here.
Dave Warkle?
Yeah.
Come on.
It is. And the song is, do you know the song?
Nope, I don't know the song, but I know it's Dave by the sound.
Yeah, it's Spur of the Moment, Dave Warkle. 3 tips to anyone who would like to become a freelance drummer.
3 tips. Know your instrument. And when I say that, I mean, really make sure that you take the time to create your sound. From the heads you use, from the sticks you use, to the cymbals, all of that. Know your sound. 2, be confident. When you sit behind your instrument, to know that whatever is needed, you're going to do that. 3, never stop listening to everybody around you, because it makes you a great player when you can inspire and you listen to all the players around you in a band. Great tip.
And at last, who would you like me to interview in Trumpodden International?
International.
Yeah.
Have you done? You mean in America?
Yeah, it could be, or anywhere in the world.
Do you know Cleverson?
No.
He's from Brazil.
Yeah.
He's one guy, drummer from Brazil. He's a great drummer. And I would say over here, Amber Baker.
Yeah, cool. So, thank you for joining me here in Trumpodden International, Mr. Terry Baker.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.